Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 23rd Annual National Management Association Leadership Speech Contest, the Columbia Basin Area Contest level. This is a council level. 2 weeks ago, we had 11 young students who stirred us with their speeches about leadership compete in the Mid-Columbia Leadership Development Association and the Energy Northwest Chapter Contest. The top two speakers from each of those are going to meet today. We have a panel of judges who are NMA members who are well schooled in the art of public speaking. They have not seen these students in their prior performance. So we try to avoid all biases. In keeping with that, there's a few ground rules I'll go over quickly. Cell phones, please put them on either off or page vibrate. I think I turned mine off. You can leave your pacemakers on. No flash photography during the contest. There'll be plenty of opportunity afterwards. Now the hardest rule of all, no applause. You're going to want to really thank them. We'll do that after the speeches. They'll be introduced only by contestant number, title of the speech. I'll repeat the title, contestant number. They'll start to speak. 4 to 6 minutes. General topic is leadership. The winner tonight will take home $500, but more importantly, be the Columbia Basin Area Council representative to the West Leadership Development Conference in San Antonio, Texas, where they will compete with other students from around the Southwest, Pacific North, Pacific South for about $2,000, I believe it is, and the opportunity to become a national finalist in Miami in September. For the past 6 years, we have had a national finalist here. In fact, we have one in the audience who's twice been a national finalist, but we'll get to that later. The students will be introduced after myself and the chief judge depart. Scoring, I've gone over, and if you're watching this on TV, you probably saw it in the first hour and a half of the show, of how it's scored. The audience have the opportunity to judge it yourself, be the judge for them. So with that, if there are no questions from the audience, Chief Judge, have the judges been briefed? Are you ready to start the contest? Mr. Timer? Speaker number 1. The fruit of leadership is service. The fruit of leadership is service. Speaker number 1.
Be happy. Don't worry. Nothing's wrong. This is what our world, our nation, and our government has offered us. A problem-free philosophy. For too long, we have ignored the flawed characters of those we elect to protect us. The majority of us want a life of ease, a life of no consequence. Let me call to your attention. There was a time when our leaders inspired America to greatness. There was a time when we trusted them because they exercised their leadership for the people's cause. The fact of nature is power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. This statement by Lord Acton is best applied to the human race. We have seen this downfall throughout leaders of history, Hitler, Stalin, Mao, and many others. Don't let the tempting promises persuade you to think that it can take away all suffering and all pain. During the Great Depression, Hitler promised the German people that if they voted for the National Socialists into office, Germany would change. He promised to bring order, wealth, and greatness to Germany. What were the results? The elimination of millions so-called inferior people. And Stalin, the iron ruler who was determined to make Russia powerful, sending 15 million people to the Gulag archipelago, starved 6 million, and executed, imprisoned, deported another 9 million Russians. Another example of the result of total power can be seen in Mao. He intended to make China the largest, most powerful, and wealthiest nation in the world by copying the Soviet Union. But it brought famine, and 30 million people died. Do you recall the massacre in Tiananmen Square? Thousands of students were slaughtered because they demand the leadership of China change. Good leadership is a service performed for others. It is not ownership or control. In too many arenas, we see our leaders' self-serving natures weaken the values of good leadership. If you need any further examples, just look at our nation. What have our leaders done? Our nation is lacking money, common sense, logic, and above all, good leadership. Leaders who have chosen service over self-interest have been held in high regard. America's first president, George Washington, provides a supreme example of this kind of leadership. Washington is remembered for his strength of character and discipline, his servanthood leadership, and selfless devotion to his people. Good leadership is and has always been and shall always be a selfless action. Few would doubt the need for more leaders like George Washington. While our current president and political leaders repeatedly assured us that giving government power is the answer to all problems, let me remind you the words of our former President Thomas Jefferson. Our government, big enough to give you everything you want, is strong enough to take everything you have. The course of history shows as government grows, liberty decreases. Ladies and gentlemen, leadership is an issue that affects all of us. We are called to exercise it, and everyone has a leadership role to play. Many of us have heard of Mother Teresa. She gave up her comfortable convent to serve the poorest of the poor on the streets of Calcutta. Now, let us also remind ourselves of those not honoring textbooks or on television, such as our parents, teachers, friends, in this case, my grandfather. I spent last Christmas Eve watching my grandfather die of pancreatitis. Seeing his body motionless, I thought about how he was so alive in my life. I've known my grandfather about 6 years, and every memory depicts him as a servant. A servant to my grandmother, who is on oxygen with hourly medication. A servant to all his family members, because he was a magician who fixed everything. Only to remind myself how he was a servant of servants, I shall state his last words. Make sure that she takes her medication at 9 o'clock. He was referring to my grandmother, who was sobbing at his bedside. Leading, not blinding. Serving, not commanding. And giving, not extorting. Good leadership does not take away individuals' freedom, accountability, or responsibility. Just as a leader is to serve those in need, those who follow ought to do the same. In doing so, they, along with the leader, practice self-discipline, love, and respect for each other. Take action. Demonstrate values of service, and inspire others to become the stewards of our society.